I loved Superman and I loved the Fantastic Four movies. In my opinion, these are some of the best superhero movies that have come out of Marvel and DC by a long shot. And being my first Superman and Fantastic Four movies. They're hopeful, inspiring, and thank God there's actually some color. I love how both movies jumped right into the point, the present day of their respective timelines, instead of just being another dragged on origin story. Because at this point, even as a comic book media casual, I already know their stories. So let's skip the awkward, whoa, we have powers now phase and get right into the real meat of the story that these movies are telling. I really hope that more comic book hero movies take this approach when it comes to telling their stories, but I hope they do it the way the Fantastic Four started their movie as compared to Superman. It was peak show don't tell writing. Mild spoilers for both movies, by the way. Now, if you've seen my Helloverse reviews, who am I kidding? That's where a majority of my views are pulled from, and I'd very much like that to change. Subscribe now so I can dig myself out of this content hell I've placed myself in. Show Don't Tell is a narrative device used to convey how a character is feeling or allows the audience to infer on visual cues of a scene rather than just straightforwardly telling us this information directly. I could tell you that Elio is sad and lonely, but scenes that show him isolated, hugging his knees, and crying conveys it so much better, and it lets you think for yourself. I firmly stand by show don't tell, but it can also be a flexible literary rule. For example, in Family Guy, they always tell the setup to a cutaway gag and then show that gag to various degrees of comedy. That's showing and telling that could be used to infer on a character's past behavior and such. In the Fantastic Four First Steps, the movie opens with a television host giving the audience a look back at the past 4 years since the group gained their powers from cosmic rays and became superheroes. We get to see how their powers work, saving the city multiple times from different threats and interacting with the citizens. This is show and tell. The TV host is explaining how they got their powers while we see footage of them in their spacesuits. The cherry on top being the great use of sound design. You hear their screams and terrified confusion as the cosmic rays engulf their bodies. However, that is not shown. It's left to personal interpretation on behalf of the filmmakers. They either wanted to avoid repeating what the past films have done, decided to cut it for a theatrical release, or just left it up to a viewer's imagination to fill in the blank. Now, personally, I don't think it matters that it was seen or not, but important that it was established through the audio. Remember, this is officially my first Fantastic Four movie. I didn't watch Chris Evans or Michael B. Jordan's Human Torch, and I'm probably not alone in this. It's just that at the time, I wasn't as interested to see those movies because I wasn't interested in comic book heroes, but that didn't stop the internet from telling me how much they felt about it. This was an amazing, and I dare say, a fantastic film that gave me a firm grasp on who these characters are, and that through-lined all throughout the movie. Mommy instincts to protect her young gave Sue Storm all the strength she needed, and I think I finally understand now why people give Mr. Fantastic the headcanon of being autistic. He was showing a lot of signs. Now, as for the other trademark hero whose film was also my first, Superman. I've been watching Adult Swim's My Adventures with Superman, a show that was going to be on Cartoon Network, but decided that action cartoons are for the B side of the channel. Nonetheless, I love their take on the Superman mythos. Clark is kind, thoughtful, and a dork you just want to impregnate. It's a great show for longtime Superman fans that went hungry for 30 years and newcomers to learn more about the big Blue Scout himself. But what about Wonder Woman fans? Shh, your time will come. Same goes for James Gunn's version of Superman, which was dripping from not so subtle political and social commentary on who Superman is supposed to be. While the movie had to do a lot of telling at times, it still showed us exactly who Superman is and who he always has been, an alien from a dead race sent to keep his people's legacy alive, but raised by a small country couple that taught him basic human kindness, which Clark shows every living creature. That's the Superman we all look up to and aspires hope. But the opening of the movie was awfully dry. While I appreciate that it also wants to skip the origin, we see more of that later in the film anyway, but it just starts with lines of text. 3,000 years ago, metahumans popping up, 300 years ago that, 30 years ago that, 3 years Clark has been Superman and hasn't lost a fight yet. I don't even remember what the other lines read, just that they're establishing that, hey, superheroes have been a thing for like a long time now. Some are in organizations. There's this particular one called Superman. He's never lost a fight until now. And boom! Movie starts. Sorry, but that is terribly uncreative, unoriginal, and just boring. Boo! Boo, I say, sir! If I wanted to watch a movie that requires reading a wall of text to get caught up, I'd start getting into Star Wars. I came to see Superman, not to read. I'm a Pokemon fan, damn it. You can't expect me to engage with literature.
I may be an idiot, but I'm not stupid.
But for real though, that bit of telling and not showing is why I'd give half a point off to this movie's punk rock status. It didn't ruin the film, but wasted an opportunity to really show these past fights, and more importantly, the impact Superman had on everyone to establish his place in the world it's building. Granted, we see him fight a giant monster and wanted to handle it ethically, which says so much about his caring nature. But I really wish it started with that, Maybe use some, I don't know, news reports of a Superman sighting and newspaper articles written by Clark Kent that visually shows the progression of his presence to Metropolis and Lex Luthor's ever so growing hate boner. It can have that and still start with Clark getting hurt. That was actually a brilliant take to start the movie, showing that the world's strongest hero is bleeding and just to remind us that he is also human. But that's just my teeny tiny nitpick of this film. Overall, I still loved it. Loved Clark, loved Lois, loved Jimmy, hated Lex, that bald bitch. I can't believe I have his personality type. What does that say about me? That you have a passionate drive to get your point across about how you feel about things? Oh. Again, I loved both of these movies for what they are, and don't feel the need to argue which was better. That's a pointless comparison considering the different timelines, aesthetics, where they are respectively in their cinematic universes, and a load of other factors that the internet doesn't care about. Not when there's rage bait to be made, baby! The only comparison I wanted to note and was worth noting was their use of show don't tell, and I hope it was useful when it comes to writing stories. If you've seen either, both, or neither of these films, let me know how it made you feel, and what's a mega nitpick that you have about them. Let's get petty in the comments. I hope you have a super fantastic day. Okay, love you, bye!